Coming up on Varsity Sports, Week 2 is in the books. We'll show you highlights from the top football games in North and South Dakota.
And which volleyball teams continue to impress, we'll give you an overview in the latest power rankings.
Plus, we'll take a look at some of the players that have college coaches drooling. And we make our picks for the biggest and best games of the upcoming week. All that and more coming up right now on Varsity Sports. And hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I am Jay Elson. Well, this week brought another batch of great games, Jason, but did the picture become any clearer in the football landscape?
Well, you know, the second week always gives you another reference point, but it's still pretty early in the season to get a complete and clear picture of who the pretenders are and who the contenders are.
Well, a little later in the show, we're going to get to some volleyball, but first, let's start with a look back at the week that was in Week 2 of high school football. And we start in North Dakota. The top-ranked West Fargo Packers needed a late-game comeback to overtake the defending champs in a 19-16 win. Abinaman Simone took a 91-yard kick return to the house to fuel the Packer comeback, but this Andy Grabdahl to Joe Pistorius 63-yard touchdown pass put the Packers in front for good. They advanced to 2-0 and now visit Fargo South. Another tough one coming up.
A really proud sign of a good team is to be able to come back from adversity. The left side of our offensive line went down. Got a couple sophomores playing and somehow found a way to hold on.
Fargo South and Bismarck were both coming off of convincing wins last week. But when they met on Saturday, it was clear that the Demons had the upper hand. Bismarck shut out the Bruins 35-0. Lucas Butts ran in 3 touchdowns, all in the first half, and the Demon defense sparkled for the second straight week.
Fargo Davies matched up with Minot. Both squads looking for their first win in this one. Minot's Creighton Rudolph had a hand in 4 touchdowns as the Magi exploded for 48 points, though they did still give up 32 to the Eagles in the win.
I mean, our guys up front, our line is huge. We love those dudes, and they get a good push up front. Our running game will work off of that, and off that, our passing game, we make plays out there.
Dickinson beat Grand Forks Central 14-6. Quarterback Sean Steffen was 8 for 13 for 148 yards and a touchdown, while Trevin Hopoff rushed for 92 yards and a score in a hard-fought, low-scoring game.
I think the biggest thing right now is just our effort, and we're playing through some of those mistakes and things like that, and we're still able to find a way to win.
St. Mary's is your new number 1 in Class AA, and they reinforced that faith with their 41-0 shutout against Wahpeton on Friday at the Bull. Cole Gendrew ran for 108 yards and threw for 86 in that dominant victory.
Valley City continues to power past their early season competition. They beat the Broncos of Lisbon 52-12 behind the great performance of Eli Allen. He carried 8 times for 191 yards and 3 scores.
Big night for him. Fargo Shanley visited the north side of Fargo and returned with a win. Josh Johnson and Tom Erie combined for 202 yards rushing for Shanley, while the defense got 2 picks and held Fargo North to just 123 yards of offense. All right, we'll keep it right here. We've got more highlights to show you, including the President's Bowl, the South Dakota Rewind, coming up next.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
And welcome back to Varsity Sports. Time now to survey the scene in South Dakota. And let's start at the 25th Annual President's Bowl, where the Roosevelt Rough Riders wanted to get off to a quick start in the game, and they did just that, getting out to a 21-0 lead in the first quarter. And the Rough Riders rolled to a 35-10 win behind the big effort of quarterback Torrin Devericks. He went 21 of 31 for 222 yards and 4 touchdowns.
They were much sharper this week. The nightcap featured a battle of East Side Sioux Falls teams. Lincoln had the lead in the second half, but Washington scored the last 20 points of the game, including 2 touchdowns to Logan Utech for the 34-16 win.
We did some nice things to kind of survive and keep the lead at halftime, but we got in there and we were talking X's and O's, and I just said, we got to throw it. You know, we just got to throw into that wind, and we're just going to have to, eat it, and we did, and it kind of opened the game back up for us.
Brandon Valley played a tidy game and jumped all over Watertown for a 40-0 win. Alex Waltner spread the ball around through 3 touchdowns, while Watertown quarterback Alex Gower left the game in the first half due to injury. The Arrow offense struggled after that, and they could not put the ball in the end zone.
We worked hard all week to get ready, and our defense played tremendous, not giving up a first down until the second half. And then our offense got the ball and charged down. We didn't punt until the second half, and it was great overall.
The Battle of the Tigers was a defensive battle for much of the game until Harrisburg's Jack Anderson broke the game wide open. He ended up with 181 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns as Harrisburg advances for the win.
We started off slow, kind of like we did last week in the first half. Just not doing what we're supposed to do. And we didn't make any adjustments to the half. We just started blocking the people we're supposed to block and making the tackles, reading our keys defensively. Kids played a whale of a second half.
Mitchell and Yankton hooked up for a battle of ranked teams in Class 11 AA. Colonels got a 35-6 win in this one, despite Yankton's Rex Reiking getting 3 interceptions in the first half. The Colonel's Spencer Negabaum carried 23 times for 179 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also caught 2 passes for 24 yards and a score.
Our linemen really showed up to play this week, and they just had that energy and they had that push. You know, every run we had was just 5+ yards, you know, so credit to our linemen. They had that push tonight and they were ready to play.
Dakota Valley hung with Madison in the first half, trailing just 7-6 at halftime. But in the second half, the Bulldogs blew up and cruised to a 35-13 win. Their quarterback, Josh Giles, was 21 of 33 for 297 yards and threw for 4 touchdowns.
Madison seems like they're going to be awfully tough to beat. You're going to have to play 4 quarters against that squad.
2 tough teams in the first 2 weeks, 2 big wins.
Absolutely. All right, well, coming up later on in the show, Jandy has some volleyball highlights. But first, we're going to look at some of the most highly decorated recruits in the Dakotas.
NDSU's been really close to me my whole life, and the program is just something spectacular, and it's something you'd obviously want to be a part of, so it was a no-brainer.
You know, even when I was going through the recruiting process, it was a big subconscious weight. I couldn't feel it like in every day, but I couldn't sleep at night because I had it's the biggest decision I've ever made. But once I got it off my shoulders, I could just relax and be a kid and play high school football.
He cares about you actually and wants you to get a good education. He told me, he said, if we don't have the right education here for you, this isn't the school for you. He really cares about that and what you're going to do after football. And SDSU's got a new offensive line coach, Coach Eck, and he was a big part of my decision too. He's a really great guy. I really got to know him, and we made a close relationship.
Well, you just heard there from FCS commits Brandon Metz, Zach Willis, and Austin Bowen. They've already put their college decisions in the rearview mirror, but other college hopefuls are still focused on putting impressive film together so they can get noticed by scouts. Now, hundreds of high school players are going to sign next February to play college football somewhere, but only a few know where that's actually going to be as of right now. So here's a list of some of the premium prospects that are going to play at the next level.
Yeah, that's right, Jay. Like you said, only a few have made that verbal commitment so far. And even though they verbal, doesn't mean they'll actually go to that school. We've seen that waver a few times.
On this list, as a matter of fact, already.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's take a look at this list of some of those names who have already verbaled, and this is a list of seniors only. Let's start in South Dakota. Austin Bowen, we talked about him. He is a monster up front. He had a tough offseason, by the way. He had mono this year, but really has gotten that weight back. He is fully healthy. Missed most of his junior season due to injury as well, so he's looking forward to a fun senior season. He'll be going on to play at South Dakota State, and he's also playing in the Army Blue Grave Hole game, as is Lincoln Gibbs, who is also on this list, who's headed to USD. Obviously, he made his commitment to NDSU earlier and has changed that now. He got a better offer from USD and looks to be at home with USD. You see Spencer Wagey from Watertown, the defensive lineman, going to NDSU. Crockett Krolikowski, another nose guard out of Winter, South Dakota, going to SDSU. And Xavier Ward, another big man. You see a lot of big men on this list making their decisions early.
Well, those guys are hard to find. And so if you get a skilled guy that's big that can play for you in the trenches, those are the guys that get a lot of attention because you can never have too much depth at those spots. How about North Dakota now? There's a couple of guys here to look at, too.
2 big guys and their teammates. It's unprecedented to have teammates, linemen, both going to NDSU, and that's Brandon Metz and Zach Willis. Brandon Metz, an outstanding wrestler and just a tough guy. I mean, everything about him says tough. And then Zach Willis, a big body up front as well, already making that decision. And he says, I'm so relieved to make that decision and be able to just play my senior season. And that's really a common thread for all these guys.
I was just going to say, a lot of these guys, they feel like the weight's been lifted off their shoulders. They can just go out, have fun, and enjoy that last season. But some guys just aren't ready to make the call, Jason. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of really good players out there that haven't made up their mind yet. So let's take a look at some of those.
Either they're not ready to make the call or the colleges aren't ready to make the call.
That's true, too.
That's another whole piece of this puzzle is that the colleges have offers out there, and if those offers don't get fulfilled, they got to go to plan B, plan C, and even if you're a plan E guy, you might be a really good player. So all these guys are still kind of waiting for that match, and here's a couple of them from South Dakota. The big man, Austin Losant, he's a 6'8" lineman from Madison, getting a lot of attention, waiting to see where that connection will come for him. Carter Carson's one of the few guys who gave Matt Varniak problems last year on the defensive line, and he is an animal at defensive line. Somebody's going to get a really good player. Chase Corton, he puts up unbelievable numbers in the measurables as far as jumping ability, speed, strength. He's got it all. Peyton Conrad at a T, by the way. This is a guy who had a huge half last week. He continues to get D2 offers throughout his senior year. That's a guy you might want to keep an eye on as well. And just like Alex Waltner for Brandon Valley, has added a lot of strength. I think he's a guy that's going to get looks as well in this area for college. And Darian Ogunjumalusi, another really talented, fast player, all-around athlete, offense and defense. I mean, he could help a lot of colleges. So these are just a few guys in South Dakota to keep your eye on coming as we get closer and closer to signing day. And
a lot of 9-man guys on this list. So if people think that you play 9-man football, you get overlooked. That's not always the case. If you're a good football player, they're going to find you. Well, in this day and age especially.
Yeah, Corton, Ogunjumalusi,
exactly.
Lincoln Gibbs, the list goes on.
How about North Dakota now? Some really good players up there that have not made the call yet on where they're going to be headed.
Well, Jay Gibson has 2 guys going to NDSU already on the offensive line. He kind of wishes Chase Teichen would make his decision too, because it really diverts your attention, but he needs to do what's right for him. But he will definitely be a guy getting looks at the FCS level too, not only for what he does on offense, but the starting middle linebacker on West Fargo, a really tough dude. Colton Cook, the big guy out of Minot, great size and speed combination. Hayden Reynolds, the linebacker out of West Fargo Cheyenne. Dylan Jepson, he's got that tight end build. He can also play defense. Jackson Hankey, another really big guy from a Class A school that could do some big things. And Jake Elan out of Richland. I mean, I don't know if he'll be an offensive or defensive guy, but that kind of talent doesn't come along very often. I think he'll be getting some looks at the D2 level and maybe even beyond that. Just a fraction of the guys that are going to get signing day opportunities coming up in February, but we wanted to highlight those guys right now so you can watch them throughout the season.
Certainly, yeah. Looking forward to paying attention to how these guys are doing throughout this season to finally find out. It's for us, it's almost as exciting as it is for them. Not really, but still.
It kind of is.
Signing day is a lot of fun around here. So look forward to a whole bunch more commitments coming in over the next couple of months. All right, let's move into game balls for this week. Jason, let's start in North Dakota and give the game ball to Wyatt Carr. His Hazen Bison beat Botno 48-8. He was as close to a perfect game as you can get. 4 carries, 207 yards.
Yeah, 4 carries.
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns.
3 of 4 passing, 134 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It doesn't get much better.
Yeah, what a week for Carr. Some other games that should be noted, and a couple of those guys, Jason Hookstra of Legacy, he also threw 4 touchdown passes. Josiah Orluck of Beach, he had 2 touchdowns and over 300 yards passing. And Larimer's Jacob Tupa, also a 3 touchdown performance. Those are just the passers on this list.
And in a lot of weeks, one of those guys likely would get the game ball, but you can't overlook Carr. All right, South Dakota now. The game ball goes to Spencer Negebauer of Mitchell. He took over the game in that 35-6 win over Yankton. 179 yards rushing, 42 yards receiving, 4 total touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. You said he took the game over. And there's some other guys in this list that took their games over as well. Preston Barr of Aberdeen, 3 touchdowns, 249 on the ground, and also made 2 picks on defense. Very close to winning this award. Torrin Devricks, 3 touchdowns right away just in the first quarter and cruised to a win. Peyton Zabel, he had a huge day. 4 touchdowns for him, and 3 of those touchdowns went to Brad Dean, who had also unbelievable day for Pierre. And then what about Josh Giles? Another 4 touchdown performance from a quarterback. He's just a junior. A lot of big plays, a lot of big players this week on our top performers.
Another week of football for the Giles family, right?
Boy.
All right, well, stay tuned because when we come back, we're going to get you caught up on volleyball action around the area. We'll also unveil our new power rankings. That's coming up next. All right, we're going to switch the focus briefly to volleyball here tonight, Jason, and talk about the power rankings and starting in South Dakota here. And there's one team that's been rolling and looking pretty much better than everybody, and it's been Harrisburg. Yeah. Tigers now 6-0 on the season.
Yeah, their star, Sammy Slaughter, has a lot to do with that. On Tuesday night, they got a sweep against Yankton. 7 aces, 13 kills, 4 blocks. And that's just their second win that they made look easy this week. But there are a couple other undefeated teams still in the rankings. Roosevelt beat 2 intra-city rivalries, got a win against Washington and Lincoln on Tuesday night. Riley Boyd led them Tuesday night against Lincoln with 22 kills, and Abby Heberly 43 assists in that match. It took them 4 sets to win that one. Brandon Valley, by the way, I got to talk about Rapid City Stevens first of all. They went into Gillette and stayed unbeaten. I think this is a team that's for real. Brandon Valley also bounced back with a big win against Mitchell on Tuesday night. Elsie Jacek, 14 kills in that one. And then O'Gorman went 0-2 to start the year. 2 big wins in the latter part of this week. One against Huron on Tuesday night, which was previously ranked. So I think the Knights back on the right track.
Yeah, it seems like it. In North Dakota, it's been kind of all about Bismarck Century in Class A. The Patriots now 8-1 on the season and back atop the poll.
Big week for them. 2 3-0 sweeps this week against Dickinson and Mandan. Reagan Dennis had the big night against Mandan. 9 kills in just a 3-set win. And that's going to be a continuing theme for this Century team. A lot of good athletes. Shanley, the only team to beat Century this year. They keep hanging tough, too. Kylie Kanschweischer, 16 kills, 12 digs in their 5-set win over West Fargo. That was a tough, grinded-out win on Tuesday night against a really good Packer team. But there's another team in West Fargo, Cheyenne. Watch out for them. 7-2 on the year. Abby Blanche with 8 aces, 8 kills in their win over Wapton on Tuesday night, and Mackenzie Newton and Brooke Prochaska both having great nights on Tuesday. I think the Mustangs a team to watch. Bismarck stays in that top 5. Kara Hausler had a big night on Tuesday night, winning their set, and then Fargo North moves into the rankings. Alexis Bachmeyer, 22 kills in that 3-1 win over Davies, beating a team that was previously in the power rankings, so a big win for Fargo North. And there's a couple other teams on the fringe, too, that are just as good as some of these top 5 teams, but you got to draw the line somewhere.
Talking about in football, it seems like it's a little too early really to make any distinctions as to who's a real contender and who's a pretender. But I think in volleyball, maybe the cream is kind of starting to rise a bit.
Yeah, we didn't see Roosevelt as maybe a top elite level team. They're looking like it with their young backcourt doing a great job so far this year. I think they've got a couple of weapons to watch for.
Still a long way to go, though, before those state volleyball tournaments coming up later this fall. All right, next, the rivalry resumes. We make our picks for the best games coming into next week.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
And welcome back to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I am Jay Elson, and week 2 for our Pick'em contest, the
How about
annual
week 1, by the way?
contest. Well, week 1 was great if you're Jason. Not so much for me. 500's okay. I mean, at least that it wasn't 1-3 or something.
I had to bring you down a little bit last night. This is what Jay does every year. He starts out a little slow, and then he turns up the heat, so we'll see if the heat starts this week.
I'm just not in mid-season form yet.
Okay.
So maybe that'll start this week, even though it's only like week 2. So, all right, let's start. We just talked volleyball. Let's do it again. North Dakota volleyball, a pretty good even matchup coming up here.
Yeah.
Minot 5-4 will travel to Bismarck Legacy, who's 6-3.
2 teams just outside my top 5. Minot has really been the surprise team of the WDA this year. Watch out for them. They put a good run together, but everybody knows that Legacy has a lot back. They did not graduate one player. Of course, they had no seniors on last year's team. Bring back a lot, and I think they're going to kind of keep ramping up. I got to take the Sabres in this one.
Might be a surprise, but the one thing I don't really see with the Magi are an impressive win or kind of a landmark victory to this point in the season. It could come, but
maybe this is it.
Legacy, meanwhile, has a couple of good ones already over Grand Forks, Red River, and Shanley. Teams also mentioned in your power rankings, so I like Legacy to get the win at home. All right, let's switch up to football now in North Dakota. Great one here. St. Mary's 2-0 at Beulah, also 2-0.
Yeah, this game last year was an epic battle, and I didn't know who was going to win this game until the very end. I think it's going to be very similar this year. Beulah at home, the defending champs trying to defend their turf, but St. Mary's brings back Cole Gendrer, who's doing a great job at quarterback. Cole Spies, a lot of guys they can hand the ball off to. Jonah Krebs just don't know where they're going to go. It's going to be too hard to stop the multifaceted attack of the Saints. Give me St. Mary's.
I'm going to go the other way.
Okay.
And it's kind of more of a gut thing for me than anything. I like what Beulah's done to this point. They blew out Hazen to start the year. Granted, Hazen is a Class 1A team, but
a good one.
Then they beat up Central Cass, a team that you've got mentioned in your power rankings this year. So I think overall, the 2 weeks to this point are a little bit more impressive for Beulah. You throw in the fact that they're at home. And that's enough for me. I'm going to go Beulah, so we're opposite that way. South Dakota football now, good one in the 9-man ranks here. Bonham at Gregory.
Oh boy, if this is a neutral field, I think Bonham is the better team, so I'm going to pick Bonham. Bryce Jasinski, a great quarterback for them, is able to throw the ball all over the field. And Chase Corton has gotten off to an unbelievable start in the one game that they played. He accounted for 6 touchdowns, so that's how you start a season. Gregory, on the other hand, great defense led by All-State player Jade Vander Werf, and he will ride that defense. So it'll be fun to see a great high-powered offense going against a great defense, but give me the Cavaliers in this one.
If I'm going to be honest, I'm wishing we were seeing this game a couple of weeks down the road because to this point, it's really just tough to get a gauge of how good these teams really are. Combined record of their opponents to this point, 0-6. You've got Chase Corton, you've got Andy McCants from Gregory, a couple of really good players. I'm going to give Gregory the nod in this game, and again, I think the home field factor comes into play here, so give me the Gorillas. Finally, South Dakota football, West Central at Madison, always a fun.
Yeah, I think West Central is down just a little bit too much. Give me Madison in this one. I think they roll for the 3rd week in a row.
I picked against Madison last week. They made me look silly. That's not going to happen again. Give me the Bulldogs as well. Finally now, upset picks.
How about this? 18 losses in a row for Grand Forks Central. I think that streak stops this week in Cushman Field as they take out their cross-city rival. Give me Grand Forks Central.
I love it when you go out on a limb like that. All right, mine's going to be in North Dakota as well, Class A. Ellendale, Edgeley, Combe. 2-0. I like them over Larimore, who you've got as number 1 in your power.
I like the big upsets.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.